Fox on top of a little bit of over-the-top drama talking about these tax cuts on a same-day days. In fact, that we've heard the likes of AT&T and Boeing and Wells Fargo and Comcast for a variety of reasons talk about good things they hope to do. Hardly monstrous, hardly Frankensteinish, but weird. A day after the fact, the reality is the tax cuts are coming and corporations are surprising. Lauren Simonetti has more. Lauren.
What a monster a bonus is, especially in time for Christmas, Neil. All right, so these corporate tax cuts, they're permanent. So the question is, are companies going to use their tax savings? The answer is they already are, at least some of them. First out of the gate here is AT&T. This is what they're doing, giving 200,000 of their workers a $1,000 bonus. Also investing $1 billion into the U.S. next year because they believe tax reform will drive growth and create jobs. And yes, Neil, AT&T, I wouldn't call them friendly to the administration right now after it blocked their purchase of Time Warner. Comcast also giving 100,000 workers $1,000 bonuses, plus investing more than $50 billion in infrastructure, thanks also to the recent repeal by the FCC of net neutrality. The company is adding, quote, "With these investments, we expect to add thousands of new direct and indirect jobs." Speaking of jobs, many bank workers will see their paychecks go up. 36,000 employees at scandal-ridden Wells Fargo will see the minimum wage hiked to $15 an hour. That starts in March. And Wells Fargo will donate hundreds of millions to programs that help small businesses as well as homeowners. Fifth Third Bancorp also hiking minimum wages for about 3,000 of their hourly employees and promising thousands more a bonus if tax reform is signed into law by Christmas. Finally, Boeing investing $300 million in itself and in its workforce. They're doling it out between charitable causes, employee training, and their facilities. So all in, hours after tax reform was passed in Congress, we see corporate America putting their money to work. Two questions remain. Will more companies follow, Neil? Or are the companies that do follow, or these companies just trying to get in the administration's good graces?
Well,
like
whatever
AT&T.
you could argue, whatever their motivations, if they keep to what they promised to do, not exactly Frankensteinish, but we shall see. All right, Lauren, thank you very, very much. All right, Congressman Steve Scalise joins us right now. Republican Louisiana, of course, House Majority Whip. This man has been through so much this year, but I would think at year's end, pretty happy about this development here. How soon do you know, Congressman, the president will be signing this?
Well, Neil, happy days are here again. You're going to see the president sign this bill in the next few days, and you're already seeing the benefit that so many millions of workers are going to be seeing that have been wanting this kind of relief. And it's not just about cutting taxes to put more money in their pockets, which is going to be important, but as you see now, there's true competition going on where AT&T started at $1,000 for over 200,000 workers, and there's more to come. You're going to see, I think, more and more companies every day announcing these kind of benefits to workers because there's an increased value in workers. They're going to see increased paychecks. This is what we said was going to happen, but it is already happening before the bill's even signed into law.
So you want to see, obviously, more of this type of thing. Obviously, companies can spend this tax largesse any way they want to. Not only are their rates going down dramatically, they get the benefit of a one-time low tax on their monies held abroad. I think about 15.6% take advantage of that. And if they follow what some of these other companies like AT&T and Wells Fargo are doing, there could be a double benefit. Is it your hope and expectation that most companies do what these are?
You're going to see a lot more of this, Neil. You're seeing companies invest in their workers. They're also investing billions of dollars in new infrastructure, and you're going to see that in every sector of our economy. It's going to ripple through to the guy that works at AT&T who's maybe laying fiber optic cable throughout more communities, more broadband going to rural communities. This is the benefit that you're going to see, not just, again, in your paychecks, not only when you do your taxes. You're going to pay less in taxes now, but you're also going to be seeing more jobs created. A lot of those jobs that left America that we complained about for so long, in our bill we did something about it. We made our country competitive again, so we're going to see those jobs come back to America.
You know, a lot has been made of the timing, as I said at the outset, sir, with the president's signing of this. There are some who are spooked by the idea of holding off on that signature because anything could happen. Do you hope that, as some have said, the president signs this tomorrow before he leaves for vacation and doesn't wait until next week or even the new year?
Well, look, I'm glad after this long debate over this bill, people now realize how good it is, so much so that they want it to be signed sooner. Look, President Trump had a great celebration at the White House yesterday where he started the process of letting people know about this bill. Because if you're just reading about it in your local newspaper, you're probably hearing a lot of this kind of boogeyman Frankenstein foolishness from the left, who are scared to death of people getting more of their money back. But once people start seeing that money come back in their paychecks and they see bigger paychecks at their office, they're going to actually realize how good of a bill this is. So, you know, as soon as President Trump wants to sign it, I'm just excited. We have a president who wants to sign this bill and who helped us get to this point. We would not be at this point without the leadership of President Donald Trump, Vice President Pence. Their whole team at the White House has been great in helping us get that bill to his desk. And when he signs it, it's going to be an even bigger celebration for families and workers in the middle class who have been crying for this kind of relief for generations.
You have heard, obviously, Congressman, about those who argued that this is just a giveaway to the rich, to fat cats, what have you, and that disproportionately so, and that people, even the middle class who do see the relief, and that pops up in their paychecks, I guess in February sometime, will be disappointed that they don't net more, that for many of them, whether they're paid every 2 weeks or 1 week, maybe 40, 50 bucks, and that won't move the needle. What do you say?
You know, that's all that the left has when these elite, liberal, out-of-touch people in Washington say they don't want you to have more of your paycheck. They just yell tax cuts for the rich. Well, all of a sudden, that worker at AT&T that just got $1,000 back, who's maybe living paycheck to paycheck, is saying, I'm not the rich, and I just got a big bonus that's going to help me go buy more Christmas presents for my kids. What do you tell that worker who now is going to get that money back in his pocket? You know, their argument falls flat.
What do you think of those who are in those high tax states, though, sir? Especially those, like I'm in New Jersey, and a lot of people in my state are very concerned, whether they're wealthy or not, that even the double in the deduction, all of that, isn't going to compensate for losing what used to be write-offs for their state local taxes and property taxes that are well in excess of the $10,000 that's been allotted.
Yes. And Neil, even in those high tax states like New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, whatever state you might be in, every single rate comes down. And we've run the numbers in a lot of those states, by the way, Neil. And with our tax cuts, by reducing every tax rate, doubling the standard deduction, every single income bracket in almost every congressional district sees their tax rates go down in every single income bracket, even with that SALT deduction going away in high tax states. So you're going to see a huge benefit to middle class families, to everybody who pays taxes. They're going to see a tax cut.
And for those few, they might be few who don't. What do you tell them?
What I tell them is look at all the other income tax cuts that are coming for everybody. Look at how our economy is going to take off and how that's going to help them. But also look to your local state. And if your state's raising taxes on you at such a high level that the only way to equalize it is by saying, please have the federal government deduct every dime of it, now they're going to go back to Albany. They're going to go back to Trenton, and they're going to say, you need to lower our taxes too, because it really worked at the federal level. Now you need to lower our taxes because those taxes are too high. Let's have that national debate, Neil.
Okay. Obviously, a lot of people say that a lot of things changed in getting this tax cut done, not the least of which is you returning after your close brush with death and that assassination attempt. The fact of the matter is that it did galvanize a lot of the troops. In fact, the president has become quite fond of you, and I did notice that yesterday at the big event on the South Lawn of the White House. I want to go back to a comment he made and what you thought of it. This is from yesterday.
Steve Scalisi's braver than all of us. He's braver. Where is he? Oh boy, I don't know. He had a rougher year than most of us, but it's a hell of a way to lose weight, Steve. You said you lost it. It's not a good way. We love you, Steve. Great job. Great job.
It was a hell of a way to lose weight. How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling great, Neil. Look, the president came to see me in my darkest days. When I was in the hospital those first few hours, the president and Melania Trump came and really consoled my wife. I was unconscious, just being, fighting for my life. But my wife was really dealing with some tough times right then when we weren't sure if I was going to make it. And to have the president come personally to the hospital with the First Lady. It meant so much to my wife, to my family, and then he called every step of the way. And look, I lost 50 pounds from the day I walked into the hospital till about a month later.
Wow.
I'm trying to get some of it back, and I'm building a lot of my strength back. But to have such support from my colleagues here, Republican and Democrat, and the warm wishes of family and friends back home, but even prayers from people I never met before, I can't say thanks enough to all the people who helped me get to this point, who prayed for me. God has been great to me. We have a lot to be thankful for this Christmas. But what an exciting time to come back to work and be a part of this, Neil. It's really, it's been invigorating and exciting to be a part of.
I know you were asked a lot of maybe dopey, emotional type questions like this, Congressman, but did it change you and change your approach to even the tax cut? There was talk at least, that you were very insistent on making sure that average folks were part of this tax cut, that if some in the upper income, the top 1%ers, were going to end up paying more taxes, that while you felt bad for them, you felt more of a kinship with middle and lower class people who you did want to see get something, and that was buoyed a lot by your brush with death.
Well, you know, I mean, when you have that kind of experience that I had, I don't wish it upon anybody, but it really does galvanize and refocus you on the things that are important in life, and my family was at the forefront. But you know, just the things that you love doing, and I love doing a lot of things back home in New Orleans and hunting and fishing, and I've gotten to do that again. Went hunting, duck hunting with my son for the first time just last weekend. But to come back to work, I love this job. I love fighting for the people that I represent in Southeast Louisiana, and just the things that we wanted to do to get our country back on track and restore the American dream. I knew it was right in front of us when I was fighting to get out of the hospital in August and finally in September, and I knew that we were going to be able to have this opportunity, but if we didn't put it together, it wouldn't happen. I've been through 8 years under Barack Obama where our country was going in the wrong direction, and frankly, a lot of us felt that we were losing the American dream and we needed to fight to get it back, and we had a president who wanted to do this. So I knew we only had maybe one moment to get this right, and if we didn't get it right, I think you would have easily been able to say this Congress was not a success at all, maybe a failure. But instead, we did it. We said we were not. Failure wasn't going to be an option. And we stayed to get it done. And we came together. You saw a lot of uniting and taking a lot of criticism from people who didn't even read the bill, but ultimately who now realize how good it's going to be for the country. And to rebuild that middle class, Neil, I mean, I talk to people every day who are just struggling to get by, and now they're going to have real opportunity because of what we did with this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
All right. Well, you've had incredible perseverance, a good attitude, and it didn't hurt to have a great sense of humor. But that's,
you got to laugh at life.
I think that's the Italian. All right, but
Yes.
anyway, sir, very good to see you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Great to see you. Merry
Be
Christmas,
well.
Neil.
Continued good
really
health.
enjoyed.
What an incredible story. All right, in the meantime, try to shut us down. Guess what? We'll shut our wallets. Now, will Ambassador Nikki Haley make good on a threat when the UN essentially said, go ahead, make our day? They did. What is she going to do? And what's he going to do? All right, a gain, not a record. That's a rarity here, but stocks advancing nevertheless on the distinct possibility that tax cuts could be signed into law tomorrow. No sure thing. A big concern is this ongoing spending fight back and forth that could technically have the government running out of money. Saturday morning at 12:01 a.m. Former Goldman Sachs partner Peter Kernan says we should avoid that at all costs. He joins us right now. Peter, how much of a drag was that, you think, on stocks that had been up well into triple digits, and then the more unlikely that this was looking and then suddenly likely? What do you think?
I think people who are trading every twist and turn of the tax law and its changes, in the long term, we're going to lose. And the best thing is to step away and look at the big picture. It's been a very, very strong market. We're up 24% this year. What's sort of interesting is there only have been, over the last 42 years, 8 times where that's happened before. And of those 8 times, in the following year, in no time did it go up more than 24%, and only 5 times did it go up in the second year. So we're in a very special place, rarefied air. It's really wonderful performance, and I think we have every reason to expect continued growth.
That's interesting. And so the times that you said it didn't go maybe up as much as 24%, did it ever reverse course in a dramatic fashion?
There were a couple of years where it reversed course, but in 4 of the times it went up in teens. It went up 74, 75. It went up 85, 86 during Reagan, and then it went up 3 years in a row during the Clinton administration. But the point is, what people have to really look at now is corporate behavior. We're seeing a little bit of it today. But what's going to drive these markets from here on out is not the anticipation of the taxes, because that's happened.
Yeah.
What are people going to do once they have the money? Are they going to invest? Are they going to pay people? Are they going to buy back stock? Are they going to invest in digital? Or, more recently, are they going to do more M&A, buy more other companies? Those are the things that are really going to drive the market.
What would be
here.
more of a positive sign to you? Because you early on were saying, Neil, it's not about the sweeping cut in rates, which is dramatic, but the tax holiday a lot of these companies get to bring their money back, I think, at 15.6%. They got to take advantage of it, but they all probably will, or most of them. And that means they have more money than they know what to do with, kind of like you, Peter. So now they've got to put that to work so they can actually do the best of both worlds. The bullish argument goes,
if you
buy
look
back
at
stock, right, and do what AT&T and these others are doing, take care of their workers.
Well, I think taking care of your workers is always a great first step. But what really hasn't happened, if you look back over the entirety of this rebound since 2009, we have not seen the kind of investment, the kind of growth investment characteristics which propel a market forward. Now, we've had an unbelievable run since the 6,000 or so Dow that we had in 2009. But we've relied on the consumer to drive that. The multiplier effect, that pebble in the water effect of buying a plant, of building a factory, of buying equipment, of buying another company, or of investing in a new technology, those are the things that really drive markets over a long period of time, will sustain this rally.
So, when you asked and mentioned those markets, now we've had early next year, a 9-year bull market going on. There is no precedent for that sort of thing. So how does that change the longevity tables on this?
Well, here's what I would say. Markets don't die, particularly bull markets, of old age. They die for a reason. And there aren't the kind of things that typically cause a market to correct. We don't have double-digit interest rates. We don't have double-digit unemployment. We don't have double-digit inflation. Those are the things that really drag a market down. They dragged them down in the 70s. It dragged them down in the 80s. What we have now is low oil prices, low interest rates relatively, pretty low unemployment, and in an awful lot of ways that we can see this provides an opportunity to grow from here.
We shall see, Peter. Thank you very, very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Good seeing you, Peter Kernan. All right, the difference between the media response to this and healthcare, dramatic.
President Obama will sign historic healthcare reform legislation passed by Congress.
House Democrats call those changes, which deal with the financial aspects of the bill, absolutely essential. But Republicans, Diane, are vowing to do everything they can to stop them.
Democrats, I should say, they are ecstatic, but not one Republican supported the measure.
We'll question House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who pulled off the congressional equivalent of the decathlon with that vote.
All right. So when it was all one side, Democrats came up with health care. That was a big deal, and the media was praising it. Not so much when they were addressing on the tax cut progress that Republicans made and ultimately achieved without a single Democratic vote. So that was very, very different. The president tweeting about that very negative coverage, saying that it really wasn't fair. And by the way, you could take a look at examples of that. You've obviously seen what and heard what the president has tweeted on about this. But we're going to rocket through a lot of these headlines with a guy who knows the comparison then and now, Joe Concha. And Joe, it really is glaring. I mean, the healthcare thing, that was, a religious event. This, not so much. But if you think about it, the rap against each was all lopsided by one party, right?
You expected the Aaron Sorkin music soaring behind those headlines would have been perfect, right out of the West Wing. We didn't have that. It would have been a nice touch. Yeah, look, the coverage has been stunning in terms of the contrast. Mainly, the narrative here was focusing on, will the Trump family benefit? A little message for my friends in the media. The Trump family will be fine for the rest of their lives. Usually when you become president, you get to these speeches afterwards, sometimes for $500 a pop or $500,000 a pop in Russia. So I doubt that they're doing this so they could line their own pockets. So that was an interesting narrative. And then other narratives were around polling, which some, including a CNN poll, showed that this tax bill was 55% disapproved by the public. Here's another piece of advice. Why don't we wait until this time next year and see what the benefits are in terms of GDP, in terms of jobs and all of those things. And most importantly, let's see how the 2018 elections go, because if this becomes a referendum on how the economy is doing as a result of this tax bill, then Democrats shouldn't probably be as confident as they're sounding right now in terms of turning over the House and Senate.
And we should know from experience that these things do take a while to sort out. We should also know that revelations like you're not being able to keep your doctor and that your premiums would be affordable, that didn't pan out. That didn't get a great deal near the scrutiny. For example, that right out the gate, this tax cut is getting apparently dooming the middle class and pretty much everyone below to nothing at all.
I always look back at this one piece of analysis, Neil, just hanging on to what you just said. And this was from Pew, and it was from last month, Pew Research. And they found that 74% of coverage on this president was based on his character and his leadership. In other words, Trump the person. Only 26% on policy. So let's just do a little report card on how things have gone in terms of policy based on the issues that people voted on in the 2016 election that they deem most important. Economy, you would have to say that that's probably an A, based on GDP, unemployment at a 17-year low, consumer confidence, stock market, all of those things. I mean, I think even Democrats would agree with that. Who gets credit would probably be where the debate is. Then you have jobs. I just mentioned that as well, as far as 17-year low in unemployment. Immigration, border crossings are vastly down, even though the wall, hasn't started yet, so you could call that incomplete. Then you could go to health care. That was a failure in terms of repeal and replace, but the Obamacare mandate was part of this tax bill, and now that's gone. So you could say that there was some success there, even though probably you go with a D there. And then finally, ISIS. The caliphate has been decimated, and Trump said he would blow the hell out of them, even though these things tend to metastasize terrorists in terms of lone wolves, so it's not a solved problem, but certainly success there. So if we look back on those 5 issues and how this president has done from a performance perspective, which doesn't get covered that much by the media, you would have to say this first year has been a relative success.
But, you know, it always is your bias. In the media, that it tends to be, you know, very questioning of tax cuts in general, that they always skew to the rich. That's the rap against them, and that's the narrative that's always advanced. Whereas spending and health care and all of that tends to be much more favorably covered because that's something that they support, which is fine. But just get it out there and just say, all right, one is a big government initiative with all one-party support. The other, again, a big government initiative with all one-party support, but right down the middle, you know?
Yeah, the tax cuts for the rich thing kind of took that narrative took a shot in the gut yesterday when suddenly all of these corporations started saying we're going to give $1,000 bonuses, and that started with AT&T.
That disrupted the narrative. Completely disrupted the narrative.
Did, and they didn't know how to handle it. Bill Kristol said that it was creepy that this was happening. This is a conservative commentator, allegedly one, and even he didn't know how to handle it. So that was the right cross that came in that really threw that whole narrative off. And now you could say that Republicans and the president certainly have momentum going into 2018 based on this finally having a piece of major legislation passed in his first year.
Unless it's covered. And whether you like the president or not, I mean, if you can foist a narrative that, you know, he's getting in the way of the message, sometimes he does, you'll ignore the message, you know.
Merry Christmas, Neil, by the way. I got a thing. I got to go, but appreciate it. And this has really been fun being on the show this year, and I look forward to possibly joining next year.
Many more times, my friend. Thank you very much. Joe Concha over at The Hill. All right, by the way, a lot of people apparently have not finished their Christmas shopping, and apparently there are a lot of people, who haven't even started. All right, you are looking live on the floor of the House of Representatives right now, where they're voting on CR, continuing resolution to keep the government lights on now through January 19th. This is another short-term measure, is expected to pass. The Senate, that's anyone's guess, back in 60. All right, so days before Christmas, and you haven't gotten all your presents. Some of you haven't gotten any of your presents, have you? Amazon to the rescue, dealing with this on what it calls Amazon Procrastination Day. This is the day, the last time you have, at least through Amazon Prime, to get something and get it delivered in time for Christmas. In this case, you can get it maybe 2 hours or less. Deidre Bolton at a fulfillment center in New York City. Deidre.
That is right, Neil. And you know New York real estate as well as I do. It is unusual to have between 30 and 50,000 square feet, but that is where I am standing right now. This is the Amazon Prime Now hub. And Neil, globally, there are 50 of these around the world in 9 different countries. So this one right here is on 5th Avenue at 36th Street. You essentially put in your zip code, and then you get this list of inventory of items, about 25 25,000 different items, which are right here. I want to take you into the stacks. Our cameraman is going to go, and you're going to see in between these yellow dividers all sorts of what look like miscellaneous pairings of items. I mean, there's a mouthwash with Amazon tablets, with dog biscuits, with moisturizer. It is all mixed together, but the Amazon algorithms, they know what goes where. So workers get the codes. If you order something, it goes right on the scanner, and then it goes into one of these basically plain old-fashioned bags, but with a very, very modern sticker that tells the delivery person where to go. And since we are in New York City, of course, Neil, sometimes that delivery person goes by subway, sometimes by foot, by bike, or by van, but fear not, you can still order right till 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve for your goods. Back to you.
The mouthwash and dog food thing, there must be an algorithm to explain why they're...
It's a magical combo.
Right. My dog is just desperate for this right now. All right, thank you very, very much, Dieter Bolton. All right, in the meantime, the fact of the matter is, whether they're late or on time, people are spending. In fact, this, we're told, is one of the busier Christmas shopping seasons in the better part of a decade. To retail watcher Heather Herzog on what's going on. What is going on here with this, Heather?
You know, Neil, the National Retail Federation is estimating that retail sales are going to be up around 6% year over year. So to your point, it is one of the best years that we've seen in terms of retail. So I think really what is driving this, obviously, are people spending online as well as their mobile devices. PayPal was estimating about 80% of U.S. Consumers are spending via just their phones. So because it's so easy now, people are really heading to the stores or really heading offline to get their merchandise.
The amounts they're spending that are increasing, why is that? The tax cut, feeling good, what?
I think this has been a long time coming. So, you know, prior to the recession, people were really upping their savings. They didn't feel as great about the economy, but it's a real combination of this upped consumer sentiment and a feeling that things are going to get better. And yes, of course, I think people were anticipating this tax cut coming. But now that we're seeing all these bonuses being put out, I think people are just going to start spending again, especially in the next couple months.
You know, a lot of people are spending more on average on big ticket items. You know, Apple early on with its phone and devices was thought to hog out whatever additional spending might go normally. But apparently that's not the case, and people are just doing it all.
People are not only buying big ticket items, but they're also spending on the little stuff too. Think about it, Neil. I mean, people, you know, there was this frugal fatigue is what I talk about a lot. But basically that means that people are just sick of saving. They want to go out and spend. I mean, we are a society that likes to shop. So now that there is this feeling of euphoria might be too big of a word considering what is going on in the rest of the country, especially in Puerto Rico and California. We had natural disasters hit those areas, but I think for the most part, people are just definitely feeling better, and they feel a little bit more secure with their jobs and more secure about where their income is coming from.
Knock on whatever. Heather, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.
You too.
All right, well, Nikki Haley, our ambassador to the United Nations, was there telling him, you know, the more you vote against us, the more simply because of this Jerusalem decision, and we think it should be the capital of Israel, and you slap down, you know, punishment on us for thinking that might be a good idea, the less we might be inclined to support you. Now what?
We have an obligation to demand more for our investment. And if our investment fails, we have an obligation to spend our resources in more productive ways.